Hello YouTube, it's Symphony Love and I'm back with another message. I was just sitting here observing nature and thinking, God usually puts thoughts into me that usually something that'll reach my understanding, and it'll make his message come across a lot easier. So just looking at this nature, it doesn't look like much, but I get something out of this view. This is my window, and this is always where the sun shines, somewhere up in this area where I can see it. But now that the sun is setting, it is over there on the west, and the sun always rises in the east, sets in the west. Now, no matter where I am, there are always trees around, but as you can see, all of them do not look the same. The tree over here is big, it's fruitful, looks like it's full of life, and that right there is, to me, a representation of how close we are. The tree of life, the divine connection to the Father, was always around. It's not in roots, it's not in grass, it's just a metaphor of how close you really are. It's always around you. Nature is always around you. God created these things. And yes, you see some good trees, and then you see some bad trees. And the message I get out of that, when I ask myself, why don't the trees all sprout at the same time? Why are some full of life and some just look dead, like that one? Or like that one? Or like that one over there in the middle? You know, that little tree right there. So why? What I get out of it is the trees of life represent us. We are the divine connection. We are represented by these trees. And everybody has some seeds that they plant, and they water them and they grow. Some people have more seeds that they have planted and watered, and their fruits are beginning to show. And it's very green, it's very healthy, it's very full of life. And then you have some others that are not quite there yet. Doesn't mean that they won't get there. And then you have some that looks like they just have no life in them at all. And these can be represented by the people who don't have much as far as seeds to water. They don't have fruits that are showing through their branches and their limbs. But that doesn't mean that it can't change to look like this tree. Everybody is in a different walk of life, which is why the trees of life look different. Everybody is not going to be this wonderful, voluptuous tree that looks so good. And everybody is not going to be this little tree. But this little tree is like somebody that represents me, or somebody that represented me at one point. And I'll tell you why in a second. You see many trees, they all are rooted in the same ground. They are all coming from the same connection, and they all take the same thing to grow. And they all produce whatever it is that was being seeded in the ground and watered. However, that tree, if you can see that tall, skinny tree right up there, looks like it has just about no life in it whatsoever, but it is tall. I feel like that is somebody, just representation of a Christian, or just a person that had a walk with Christ, and then they grew tall. The tree grew nice and tall and higher and closer to God. But for some reason, their fruits stop sprouting. Their trees and the healthy leaves stop sprouting. And then they're at a standstill. And then they look, and all the other trees around all the other people around, minus a few, looks to be sprouting, looks to be having, healthy relationships, healthy fruits, healthy seeds. And then you have just a few that you see in the distance that don't have anything. But the significance to the little tree is that although it looks like there is nothing coming out of this tree, you can see that it is deeply rooted in the ground. That the roots, they may look small, but they are all connected. And as you can see, once you start to begin and water your seeds in the spirit, you will start to produce green, healthy at the root. That to me is a symbol of the change of the heart. And a lot more can be done with this tree than this tall tree. This tall tree has nothing but dirt and soil around its roots. So, not to say that it won't grow, but it might take a little more to grow, or you just won't see the growth for a while. However, this tree, you can see that it maybe just started to sprout, but that is the first sign of change. That is the first step to getting right. With all the other trees around, it is like motivation, and it's like encouragement. Here you are, this little baby tree in Christ, and you look across and you see this big tree of life. And the reason why you are starting to grow at the heart, at the root, at the bottom, green, healthy leaves, is because you don't envy this tree for being this big, beautiful tree that sits across the way. Instead, you reevaluate yourself and you sit here and you wonder, man, what can I do? How can I get my own tree to be as fruitful as this one? And you start to self-reflect instead of blaming others like maybe this tree would have did. This tree has gotten so tall to a standpoint that it thinks that nobody can touch it, and that it's just so high and nothing can happen to it, and then God can slow the process down really quick to show you that He is in control. The birds, the bugs, everything natural has its purpose for being here. And whether they can talk to us and let us know and communicate, that's not up to us. They are here for their own reasons, just as we are here for our own reasons. But it doesn't mean that you can't take a lesson from every piece of nature that God has put here. There's messages in everything. There's messages in the clouds, the trees, the grass, the birds, the bees, you name it. You can definitely discern what God is trying to tell you if you just sit quietly sometimes and just listen. No TV, no music, no electronics. And sometimes He will just hit you with a message, and it might seem funny, but to others like me who are visual learners, this is easier to grasp than to just read or to just have someone tell you why certain things should be the way they are, or why your fruits aren't bearing the way that they should be. It's just something to think about. I hope you all took this demonstration video. It was a last minute thing, but I hope you took it to heart, and I hope that it meant something for one person. Hopefully that one person who was in this position like me, as this tree who is starting to grow in Christ, but you're rooted in the right way and you're coming up in the right way. It's still a baby tree, let alone you see that it isn't tall like all the other trees. Or at least not yet.